boom, kill 25 people. These rounds incoming, you've got your gunners firing above you. You've got no backup.
Yeah.
You haven't got the cavalry coming out. You aren't scared because you haven't got time to be scared.
Yeah.
It's a drill.
And you were in the SAS for 12 years in total.
I've actually had over 40 years of either being in the British military, being in the special forces, training special forces. This little group of Iraqis, they were actually putting up a white flag. One got up and just fired this RPG. We shook a massive wasp nest and then just left it. It's a mess now, and it's brought on a lot more terrorism. Bosnia was very brutal. Certain parts of Bosnia, to do with their war crimes, they were on par with what the Nazis did during their A-Day.
Give me an example of a mission you've done which was your most dangerous. Mal, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, Dodge. It's great to be on.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this one. Let's roll all the way back. Where did you grow up and how did you become one of the most well-respected men in the SAS?
I grew up in a place called Stoke-on-Trent, which is the Midlands. If you want me to take you back from the beginning, my parents, my dad was from Jamaica, from the original Windrush era. Yeah. He came across in the 50s, met my mum who's white and she's from Stoke. And basically, they got together straight away. But in them days, there was quite a lot of tensions, you know what I mean? And her mum didn't like it, so she kicked my mum out and they just made it work together. So they struggled, but they made it work.
What, you're saying there were tensions because...
racial tensions.
Racial tensions, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, this was when you had an influx of all the Windrush era coming across. And obviously they came from Jamaica and the West Indies, and this was classed as the motherland. So my father, he was a massive royalist.
Was he?
Yeah, he came over here as 18, expecting to be greeted really well, and then it didn't apparently go like that at the beginning. But he made an awful lot of friends, you know, because he settles in there, he gets on with people, and he's that type of bloke. Yeah. And he's one of these guys what was always be suited and booted going out, and he'd go wherever he wanted. Anyway, he met my mum, and he started working down the mines in Staffordshire. Yeah. But we actually moved in Stoke-on-Trent, so we actually moved to an area called Bentley, which at the time was the largest council house estate in the whole of Europe. It was massive. I've actually Googled it.
Really? Is that right? Wow. Yeah.
There was 11,000 people there at the beginning. You know, there was 3 high schools, loads of boozers and all that stuff. Yeah. But when I moved there, I was, 3.5 years old. Yeah. And what I remember was, though, it was mainly miners, working class, but white. It was the total white area. Yeah.
What was that like? What was that like for you being mixed race in the 70s?
Well, yeah, I can remember the 60s.
Yeah.
This is it.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm an old person.
You look in good nick, mate.
I don't look it, do I?
No, exactly.
But so we got there, and I was born in 64, so I can remember the late 60s and early 70s growing up and moving to this estate, and the next door neighbours put in petitions and people along the street because they just didn't want a black person there.
Is that what they did? They put in petitions?
Yeah. I can remember coming home on Christmas Eve and the house had been burgled and everything smashed. You know, we had my mum was just working on, my dad was a miner, and they wrote all the M-word on and just graffiti everywhere. It was that. So for me growing up, in my school, there was one other black lad and one Asian girl. So it was quite difficult, to tell you the truth. However, I made the best friends there. Yeah. Just by being resilient. And to me, I always take a negative and take the positive. Yeah. And that was the positive thing. It made me who I am.
How did it make you feel going to school knowing that you were the one or two of the black lads in school there, knowing that the racism was there? And I'm sure a lot of kids at the time didn't even know they were being racist. Yeah,
that's it, Dodge. Yeah. At the time, and that's why I always go back, you've got to have a look at when things happened and what was, 10 years ago, things were different and so on. But going back then, it could have been like 100 years. It was, for me, actually walking to school, I remember the hairs used to come on the back of my neck. It was so scary. And I've had people say, well, in your life, what's the scariest moment you've been in? And I've been in some scary situations, believe me. Yeah. And I say, that's the most scariest time, because as a kid, you don't know any different. Yeah. And it was going to and from school. I used to have an exit plan out of the gate. Sometimes I think, right, I used the front gate yesterday, I'm going to go out the rear gate or run over the sports fields and climb over 6-foot railings just to avoid
get home
because they get chased and everything. Christ. And a lot of it was just all banter and kids giving the abuse. You know, he didn't give you.
But you don't know that as a kid. You're just thinking, why are they picking on me? What's going on? Yeah,
yeah. So I'd literally be running sometimes, knocking on people's houses and just saying help. And back then, they used to wear the scarves, the old women, and they'd say, come on, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Yeah, they'd come and have a bite and I'd have an afro and he'd pat me head. And he'd say to me, well, where are you from, son? Do you want a cup of tea and a little bun? I'm like, okay. It was great. And he'd say, and where are you from? You know, they're women. I'm like, yeah. He goes, no, but where are you from? I'm like, yeah. It was just a different era whatsoever. Anyway, like I said, it just made me resilient. And before you know it, I made an awful lot of friends. My dad got on with everybody there, you know, because he stuck up for himself.
Yeah. Was he a tough man, your dad?
He was only small, but when I say built, he was tough because he was always a miner. And then when he finished the pits, he was a builder. You know, he was always manual hard workers. Yeah, so his hands were really tough through like leather. And it was the old Jamaican attitude. You never back chat your parents or your mom.
Always have a lot of respect.
Yeah,
okay.
Otherwise you get the belt and all that. Yeah. And that's how it was back then. But he'd
look
after himself.
Did you ever get hit by the belt?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
That was just passed on from your dad and his granddad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was, I'm sure you did when, you know.
I never had the belt, but my old man was a bodybuilder. He was a big lump and he'd just go, point his massive hands. They were like shovels. Yeah. Do you want some of that? That's all I got.
The worst thing I used to have is when my mum used to say, right, I'm going to tell your dad. And you're like, oh
shit. Anyone but my old man.
That was it, because you know you're going to get it.
Were you... You're like one of the fittest men in the SS. Whether you've ever admit that or not, I've spoken to a lot of friends in there and they said you are the fittest person they've ever come across. Were you naturally fit as a kid?
I wasn't naturally fit, but I've always enjoyed outdoor fitness. I've always enjoyed sports.
Yeah.
Maybe because I wasn't academic, but I really physically, I was competitive. So I've always enjoyed that type of life. And because at school, I was in all the sports teams and stuff like that. You know, I excelled at all that type of physical fitness. So yeah, I suppose I did.
Going back, this is like you used to run out of school with the fear of just I can't be bothered to get caught up in those group of lads. I want to run away. Was there ever a period in your time up to the age of 18 where you did actually fear for your life due to anything like racism or whatever?
Oh yeah. Because back then, this was the days when they used to have the National Front marching around, and it was really, it'd be serious. And they used to march around Stoke-on-Trent quite often. And I joined the army. I was in the cadets at 16, but then I'd be in the army, and I'd come home on leave, and I felt safe in the army because that was
your community.
I mean, it's an environment. Yeah. I was more scared than coming home on leave. Yeah. And then sometimes you go uptown and you'd see all these racists. And what I hated, Dodge, was they carrying that Union Jack, and to me, my dad used to make me stand up when the God Save the Queen come on, you know, when the TV used to finish, and because he's, as I said, a royalist, a loyalist. And I love the Union Jack that I represented. That's my country. So I used to see these thugs, you know, carrying the Union Jack. But then as time moves on, you've also got like groups like the far left now, all this talk about the Union Jack or the St. George's flag, that should be stopped because it represents racism from years ago and empire building. I mean, it's in the wording, empire. You don't get an empire by knocking on somebody's door and saying, give me your land, you know. So we've got to embrace it. That's our Union Jack. Don't let the far right nick it, and don't let the far left
the wokies go. Yeah, agree. Totally
and just
agree.
All get behind it.
When you say, just explain for you your feelings when you saw someone from the National Front. What did they look like? If you caught eyes with them, how would you feel? Was there groups of lads of them? Were they all skinheads? What were they wearing?
Most of them were skinheads. And they were all, you know, bother boots, and basically they're bullies. Yeah. They've been on the drink of a load of beer, and then they go around wanting it at the time. I don't know if I can say this, but it was like packy bashing it, or you know, after black people and stuff like that. So they were horrible, and you just saw the abuse in their eyes. But I had no time, and I'd never run. Yeah. I've been chased. I've never run, and to me, the people can say that's a bad thing, but I've always stood up for myself, and that's what my father said. You just, no matter what, you stand up for yourself. And this all happened from one time I was getting chased by kids, and he was home from a night shift, and he was just having a fag, and he was watching the West Indies cricket.
Yeah.
So he didn't stay up. And by the time I got home, I saw him. I'm like, Dad, there's about 6 kids running after me from school. I'm like, these kids are after me. And he's like, okay, go fight them. And they stopped about 70 meters away. You know, it was only small.
Yeah, but still.
And I looked at him. I can always remember this. He goes, go fight them. And then he starts getting his belt off. He goes, either you fight them or you're going to get this.
Really?
And he goes, and bite them, leave a mark.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I went there. I kept looking back at my dad. And these kids were like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Anyway, I get there, and then he started playing with me and not playing with me. They used to like playing with my throw. At the then, I did have a throw. Anyway, and then we start having a little scuffle because I was supposed to be having a fight this one, and they start. And then I bit this guy, and he squealed. And then they started on me, and then my dad just started coming, and they just ran off. But it worked, because then next day at school, they just left me alone. Even though they could have battered me, they thought it's not worth it.
Did your old man have a full-on Jamaican accent?
Yeah.
Full-on
Jamaican accent. And he never lost it.
Quality.
Never lost it. But like I said, he was just so loyal to the Queen and the country.
I think the Windrush was the most amazing time.
Yeah.
The most amazing time. Everyone coming, like, especially London, all of the major cities. What was the actual reason? How would you explain the Windrush?
Well, it was after the Second World War from 48. Because of all the devastation in the country, they wanted the rebuilding of it. So they needed people to come over, help rebuild the country, and then with the NHS starting.
That's right.
So that's why they brought lots of people from the Commonwealth. Because don't forget, they were British subjects. Yeah. They had a British passport.
Yeah.
They were classed as
That's
British.
the crazy thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder what your old man felt at the time, going, I'm going to the motherland, like I'm patriotic, I'm gonna go there, everyone's gonna be welcome, and then realise, right, okay, there's not many black people here, and there's going to be abuse. I wonder how he felt.
Well,
is he still about today, Dad?
No, he died. He died 20 odd years ago. He didn't really talk about it that much. However, a lot of his friends seem to be from the Irish side. Yeah. He had a lot of Irish friends. Yeah. Because it used to be in the day, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
No Irish.
So his friends.
How mad is that? Just hold me on that floor. They put signs up saying no blacks, no dogs, and no Irish. Yeah.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's bonkers.
You'd think that was 100 years ago. But, life moves on. We can't keep on going back in history. But history's happened. You've got to look for the future and move on and just enjoy life. And so that's what life's all
What was your movement then, Mel, from going through school? Were you thinking, I need to get out of this school system. I want to go and join the army. I want to go and join the police. What was going through your mind at the time?
Yeah. Well, what it was, academically, I wasn't there. Yeah. I was more concentrating, as I say, fighting, because then I built up the reputation of always fighting at school, getting the best fighter in the school. And before you know it,
is that right?
Yeah, he was known as the best fighter, and then you move up to the senior school, and it was, oh God. But
that's a nice rep to have, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So
protecting yourself and being known as one of the hardest in the school.
Yeah. So you could look after yourself at the end of the day. It's because you had to, and then I wanted to. I'd never ever bully, but I would always stick up for myself, never back down. So I just always, as I said, I always enjoyed fitness. I always wanted to go in the military from a little kid. My mum said 3 years old, I was just fascinated with anything what come on TV with the military. Yeah. So at 11 years old, I went in the Army Cadets, and you didn't even get uniform until you were 13. But I used to parade in my Wrangler jeans and my denim jeans and top. Like that was my marching uniform because I loved it that much. Yeah. And then at 13, you get your uniform. And to me, the cadets made sense. School didn't make sense. What do I know? Why are they teaching me about geology? What's this bit of moon rock?
Yeah, what's the point of physics?
What's that?
Algebra and I get it.
But anything to do with history, especially military history, I was like, wow, I love this. Anything to do with physical fitness, I love this, and art, believe it or not, even though I can't draw. But all the other subjects I wasn't interested in.
But you knew from a young age you weren't interested.
Yeah. Because something like the Army Cadets, it made sense. You were doing first aid. Which is important. You're doing navigation. You're living off the land. You're firing weapons, and I love the weapons. As a small kid, you're firing these. At the time, they were Lee Enfield 303 rifles from the Second World War, the bolt action ones, and they had a kick of an horse, and you were firing them. So I loved everything about it. But because I was in the Army Cadets, and that would be a couple of nights a week, and then you do all these weekend camps, I got to the rank of sergeant, and as soon as I left I was straight in the military. People saying, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going in the military."
Yeah.
And that was it.
Straight away. Get everyone out of my way.
16 years old.
Yeah, brilliant.
2 weeks after leaving school, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I joined the Infantry Junior Leaders Battalion down in Folkestone, Shorncliffe, and this is all awful.
So you left. So you went from Stoke straight down to Folkestone.
Yeah.
Was that a nice feeling getting out of Stoke?
Oh yeah, I don't.
Because Stoke's a good city, but it's a tough city, right?
Yeah, it used to be tough back in the day.
Tough city, but even on an away day, even going up to Stoke on an away day, it's a tough city to go to, you know.
Yeah. And the people are fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, they're sort of there, but it's an art community up there. You know, they like it. Anyway, so going from Stoke at 16, that was the first time I travelled on my own. They give you the tickets, get down to London and all the passes. I'd never been on the train, let alone down the London Underground and then navigate my way to Euston, to Folkestone.
Yeah.
But I loved every minute of it, and that was me. As soon as I got to the junior leaders, because I'd already been in the Army Cadets, I sort of had an head start. I knew a lot of the drill and the navigation and the small tactics and certain weapons. So I just excelled there, and I got to the junior rank of Sergeant Major, because in the junior leaders, you do like a year's basic training. Whereas if you join in after 18, you do 18 weeks basic training.
Yeah, okay. So
you do a lot more time basic training and getting beasted and all the rest of it. So your self-discipline and you're already at a great start when you go to your parent unit. So my parent unit, when I left the year's training in juniors, was the Staffordshire Regiment, an infantry unit. And this is the Staffordshire Regiment were based basically around Staffordshire. You had people from Stoke, Birmingham, Midlands. It was all a Midlands County Regiment. That's how it used to be. And like you'd have certain regiments, the Anglian Regiment from around, say, Colchester, and they'd all be around that area and so on. Now it's more intermingled.
Yeah.
But it was great because I had a couple of guys who were on this off the estate just across the road from me, were in the same platoon.
Yeah.
And so you had like a large group of Stokies there, a large group of Brummies and so on. So it was a good banter. And it was like the old PALS regiments in the First World War, where they brought everybody from the same community. But the only problem was, that what happened there was sometimes you'd have like entire villages, all the men wiped out because that battalion got it.
Yeah.
But so I really enjoyed it.
How long in total have you been in the military?
Yeah.
As we're sitting here today, how many decades would you say you've been involved with the military?
Well, I've actually had over 40 years of either being in the British military, being in the Special Forces, the SAS, or training Special Forces, foreign Special Forces.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I've only recently, last few years, stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So I've always had a weapon in my hand. I've always had that mindset, and it's always go, 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 go. But as I said, I started off in the British military. I got to the rank as a sergeant in the normal infantry, and then I went to the SAS and spent 12 years then in the Sabre Squadron. And
12 years in the SAS, wow.
And out of 12 years, what people don't realise, a lot of people, I was actually in the Sabre Squadron for 10 years then.
And what's the Sabre Squadron?
Well, in the SAS, you've got 4 fighting squadrons. You've got A, B, D, and G. We all do the same thing. The letters are just historical reasons. Okay, I was in D Squadron, and each squadron is only very small.
How many people roughly?
Oh, it's supposed to be 60 odd, but it never is. It's more like 40 odd.
Is it? Okay.
You know, because each troop's supposed to have about 16 guys in.
Yeah.
But I've never ever known a troop have 16 guys in. You're lucky to have 12, sometimes 8. They really are small.
Okay.
But it's totally different.
And why is that? Why is there not 40 in that squadron or in the D? And why are the numbers been whittled down?
Because
it's so tough to get in.
So tough to get in, in selection. And they won't take, they keep the standards just the same. So if they haven't got enough in that squadron, they haven't got enough. Okay. You just have to get by.
Okay.
But what it is on some selections, you always get over 200 guys go for it.
Yeah.
Some selections, you might get as many as, say, 24 people get through. That's the most I've ever known.
Yeah.
And so they get let 24 through. Other selections, like mine, we had 6 SAS guys get through. Sometimes very small. So if nobody's good enough, nobody'd come.
Yes, it's not like any favouritism. No, you're not good enough.
No. Or if 100 is good enough, they bring in 100. But what they never do is say, right, we need numbers. We're going to have to bring some people in.
Okay.
So no.
So how long were you actually in the military before you decided I want to get in and go for the Special Forces SAS?
I was 12 years.
So 12 years.
Yeah.
And those 12 years, how would you describe those 12 years for you?
I loved it because that was your foundations.
Yeah.
I still, even all the SAS guys, they go back to their own unit. You always do, don't you? You go back to your own school where you started or whatever the first football team was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. It's where you started your sort of career, and that sort of made you head in that direction. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. And especially, like I said, we were all from around the same area and that. But I excelled there. I got promoted quite quickly, and I got to the rank of corporal as a 20-year-old, which is basically really, really difficult because as a 20-year-old, you're in charge of 8 guys.
Okay.
And
how old were those guys be as a 20-year-old?
Well, they'd be 18, 19-year-old. Yeah. Some of them may be older than you.
Yeah.
You know, but you're responsible for them in more situations or operational situations. Say when you go to Northern Ireland, you've got somebody's life in your hand.
Yeah.
And you think of a decision for a young 20-year-old to make. It can be life and death.
What tours did you go on before you went into the Special Forces? In those 12 years, where did you go?
Well, I went 3 tours of duty in Northern Ireland.
You went 3 tours to Northern Ireland?
Yeah,
okay.
In the early 80s when it was rough. Right? And that was my first sort of combat experience. I lost a really good friend out there. And that really brought it home, like, wow, this is for real now.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Ireland, it was really difficult.
How rough was Ireland back in the 80s at that time?
Yeah. Oh, God. It depended on whereabouts you were based in Ireland. My first tour of duty, and military history will tell you this, South Armagh was known as Bandit Country, and that was the worst area of Northern Ireland. Places like Crossmaglen, right on these border towns, I mean villages, the area around Crossmaglen, the 2-kilometre square area, more British soldiers have died in there than anywhere else since the Second World War. Per capita,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, this small area. Because there was just all the shootings from across the border. They could put the IDs there. And along the border, first of all, from them little camps, used to go out in armoured fighting vehicles, you know, go out and then do searches and so on. But they stopped doing them because they were getting blown up all the time. So the only way you used to go out is by helicopter out and helicopter in. You were in these little forts. Yeah. Or if you went out on foot, you just target out and then get in areas and do your patrol.
Just so I can visualise this. What are you carrying? What are you wearing? What was your day-to-day in Ireland? What was the main objective there?
Yeah, you're showing a presence, and it depends what job you did. My first tour of duty in Northern Ireland, I actually was in what's known as the COP platoon, the close COP platoon, the close observation platoon, and this was like your elite platoon within the battalion.
Yeah.
And it's like a recce platoon. You had to do a specialist course for it. And our job was lying in bushes or lying in derelict buildings, 4 men at a time, just watching terrorist targets and reporting back on them. So we should just do the sneaky beaky stuff, basically. Go on the border, get in an edge row. You imagine 4 people in a small place like the size of this table. You get inside this edge row, you make all your camouflage in there with chick wire, and you move in over night time. You've got a massive bag with 10 days worth of food and everything in, and you'd live there. And you just go out. One guy would be in a sleeping bag, one guy would be watching, one guy would be on Stag, and the other guy would be another Sentry observer. So you sometimes have 3 people on and 1 off, or sometimes 2 on.
What's on
and you
Stag?
do 10 days. Stag is on Sentry duty, just on watch.
Just on watch, pure watch.
So you'd be watching, say, like the terrorist houses, because they don't know you're there, especially on the borders.
Yeah.
You're in these little edge rows. They don't know the military's there.
So you've been given the heads up that the terrorists are around here.
You
I
know
want to keep an eye on
terrorists.
you for 10 days.
Yeah, you'd know terrorists, who they are. You've got information on them, but you haven't got enough for the rest. And they know they were ordinary terrorists, yeah. And you'd be watching their locations, just clocking everything, every person who went there, from the milkman to whatever, and taking photos as well. So, you know, you'd have all the specialist equipment, and you'd be watching, and then sometimes openly trying to catch them moving weapons in, or getting certain targets what was on the arrest list, and so on. So, but the thing was, back and then, along the border, they used to sometimes working up to 18-man ASUs, active service units. They'd patrol that border area, the Republican Army, because they could go straight across, back across the border and away.
Yeah.
So that was our job. It was a specialist job. However, this is one reason why I decided to go to the SAS. Once we saw what looked like a certain terrorist moving to this location, and I ranking figure, and then he had all bags, and we thought that might be weapons. So we were there, and then we got pulled out when we reported this, and then we had to pull out of this bush, and then these 4 blokes came in, and to me, I was only a young lad, and these were big old boys, you know, but they had beards and long hair. I'm like, who are these? Are they rockers? Heavy rockers or something? Looked like something from a rock band. They was in uniform, and then they were the SAS. So if it looked like anything was going to go down, they'd pull you out and they'd go in and do the action, or they would do their own sort of observation posts and so on. So that's the sort of job I did. That was on my first tour.
So when you've gone through what you've gone through as a kid, tough, fighting, when you were actually on tour there, did it stand up to everything that you imagined, or did you want a bit more? Did you want a bit more action, or were you like...
No, because Northern Ireland, you're there to keep the peace between the terrorists, the paramilitary groups. And don't forget, you've got the loyalist terrorists, who are Protestant, basically, and then you've got the Catholic and the IRA terrorists. Yeah. Now, the Republican side, they didn't want the British Army there. Where you've got the Protestant side, they love the British Army. Yeah. But they were terrorists. You were fighting the terrorists. And with among them terrorists, you just got the normal people who just won't get on with life. And you there to try and protect them. So it was different. It was like, who's the friend?
Who's the friend? I was about to say, how hostile was it for you?
Oh, yeah, along the border.
Explain to me like the hostility that you'd get dressed in
a British uniform.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes it's not at all hostile, depending where you are. You could cross one street and you're in a Protestant area and they love you. Yeah. They just won't give you cakes and food. And so, you gravitate to them. Then you go to a different area where it's a Catholic area and they don't want you there. They don't like you. Yeah. And you getting abuse all over the place. But it used to give me a lot of abuse. And then sometimes, though, this is what got me thinking to myself once, why are you here, soldier boy? And I'm like, I'm just doing my job. Yeah. Then you just walk in with a big gun, showing presence. And he goes, no, but you personally, why are you here? I goes, it's my job. I'm trying to protect everyone. And he goes, no, you personally. He goes, you were black this is in the early 80s. Yeah. He goes, most people in the UK don't want you here. You were getting an odd life. You were getting low class housing. You were getting not fair treatment like we are. So why are you fighting for? I'm like, especially when you used to go back home and you see people like the National Front and people not wanting you there. You think, and it got you thinking. But hey,
did that make you feel like, where do I belong?
And I tell you what did at that time. We took over from the Guards unit, and in 1984, the Guards, there was not a black face allowed in the Guards, even though they were allowed.
What's the Guards unit?
The Coldstream Guards, the Welsh Guards, the Irish Guards. Okay. The ones outside Buckingham Palace.
Yes, okay.
And certain units within the British Army, no blacks were allowed. Yeah. Even though from 1968, that said they never had a black person in them regiments. You were frowned upon. And in certain regiments you were, because that was just how it was. Yeah. So I remember taking over from some of these Guards, and they were giving me a bit of grief. And at the time, once I had that conversation with this Irish geezer, I'm like, hang on, I'm in the British Army. I should, for my country, I'm not allowed in certain parts. I'm willing to die for my country, but I won't really get in them units, because the first black guy got in 1989, I think, because I remember I know the guy who was his first officer, and he got bullied out. Now it's all integrated, but that's just showing you how life moves on and how fast and how far we've come, which is great.
Give me another tour that you've done after the Irish ones before you got into the SAS.
Sorry. And then after that first Irish tour, a few years later, I went as a corporal. This time you're in charge of people. And then I went, my last tour was just before going in the SAS, and this time as a sergeant. So I had 30 guys. And each time you went, you saw the difference in Ireland was getting, and again, depending where you were, there was less incidents.
Okay.
And then it was starting to build up to the peace process. And you knew a bit more about it as a sergeant. And because you've got more responsibility, you've got them 30 guys' lives in your hand. You took it, not, I wouldn't say more serious, but you invested in knowing more what's going on politically.
What's the call for someone like you to say, right, you can open fire?
You have what's known as the rules engagement. You have a card, and at the time it was a yellow card, so it's just known as a yellow card. And basically, it's the same through most wars and most areas of combat, unless you're fighting enemy combatants. But when you're fighting insurgents and terrorists, it's you are not to engage unless your life, or your mate's life, or people around you is in ultimate danger. There's no other way of stopping them. Yeah. So if you could use a baton round or a warning shot or something, you do it that way.
What's a baton round?
It's a rubber round where they used to have baton guns, and it's the police used to have them as well. And you can fire. It's a rubber bullet, basically, a big lump of rubber. So if you take somebody, it would really hit them. The odd time it could kill them. Yeah.
Okay.
So it put them
and
down.
Is that the kind of warning shot? If you had those rubber bullets there, did you have any live bullets you could use after that?
Oh yeah, you'd carry a baton round, but you'd carry a live.
Okay, so that's the warning. That's the warning step away.
Yeah,
first.
That's more for riot control.
Okay,
but you'd be walking around with your main weapon, and if you came under fire, then obviously you can return fire, but you've got to identify where the fire who's shooting at you. You can't just fire willy nilly, and you have to be justified, because otherwise you're under a court of law. You can't.
Right. Okay.
You really rule.
That's the question I was going to ask. You're under court of law there, but who would go against you if you did open fire, or one of your men opened fire a little bit earlier than he should have done? You're all going to back your man, right?
Yeah, but well, if he opened fire beforehand and before he should have done, I've never had this incident, but it has happened in the past. There has been mistakes. Bloody Sunday is a
Were you there?
Main one. No, this was in the 70s.
70s, okay.
And that was, if you think about it, they were just firing into the crowd. Maybe some of them soldiers were firing a specific target, but then others were just firing into and killing innocent people, which is totally wrong. And then you look at the repercussions, what came from that. Yeah. And that's what happened all the way through my career, when, especially within the Special Forces, you don't want to take anybody's life anyway. But if you kill or injure the wrong person in that village by mistake, you've turned an entire village against you. Yeah. You know, so it's so important, and it's different when you facing terrorists or insurgents or person indicted for war crimes, PIFWICs. Yeah. They were a different breed. You know,
PIFWICs, you call them.
PIFWICs, yeah.
Okay.
That's the persons indicted for war crimes. Okay. And it's known as PIFWICs. So give
me an example of a PIFWIC.
PIFWICs say the Bosnian war criminals, when they wanted to take them to The Hague. Then these people, they've done atrocities. I mean, terrible, terrible things that they've done to other people.
An example? Because I tell you the reason why I asked that.
I think torturing them, killing them, massacring villages, massacring loads of people, being in charge, giving the orders and knowing it's been going on under their watch, and then in the military uniform, and then thinking they can get away with it. And it's happening now in Ukraine, and it's always happened through history. Yeah. But you find the people who do that, when you apprehend them, you see they shit themselves, they defecate, they don't fight. And these terrorists, these ones that cut people's heads off and put in the orange boiler vest and everything, these insurgents, you watch them scream when you capture them. Yeah. You know, they're horrible. Yeah. But these are just the bullies, and they're the most evil people going on camera, or when they were in a big group or torturing somebody. But then once they get caught, they're rats, and they're a different breed. And that's why the British military, we were so advanced in places like Iraq when it first started, and Afghanistan, compared, say, to the Americans, because we'd had the experience of working over Northern Ireland, where you don't know the people that you were fighting. You're working against terrorists.
Yeah, you don't know whether that terrorist in Iraq is a farmer or a proper terrorist.
Yeah.
Was that the same in Ireland, would you say?
And that was in Ireland.
Yeah.
A lot of time you could get fired at. You don't know where it's come from, and everybody's in civilian clothes.
Yeah.
So it was the same. So the British Armed Military, we already had an head start on that, but we learned from it by, especially the Special Forces, by getting people's hearts and minds. That's the only way you can beat an insurgency. You've got to get in there with the people, not go in heavy-handed and just drive through in your vehicles and not even get off the ground, or just stop if somebody fires at you and everybody just fires in that area and just no. Yeah. You've got to get boots on the ground, and you've got to get there and do things for the people and try and help them. Then they see, it's like the Stockholm syndrome. They see that you are there as a person. You were trying to help them. Yeah. You know, you give them medical aid and stuff like that, and get in with the population. Then they'll start passing you information, and then you'll start.
Then you start going. Okay.
You can't go in just heavy-handed.
Yeah. Okay.
And like what let's say what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, you just shake a massive hornet's nest, and then there's no end state, and then leave the country, and it just goes to pot. Yeah. So that's why the British Army is really good at insurgency. However, then on the other hand, you've got enemy combatants. Now, enemy combatants, that's different when you're fighting a conventional force in uniform, and they're firing at you and you're firing at them. Then you're letting out everything. Yeah. Okay. But then when you get an enemy prisoner, you have respect for them, because a lot of these prisoners, they don't want to be there. Yeah. They've just been put on that regime, and I can tell you some funny stories and whatever from them times, you know, where I've took prisoners.
Are you personally taking prisoners?
Yeah.
In what countries?
I was also in the first. Well, I did 3 tours of duty in the Staffordshire Regiment in Northern Ireland, and then before the third tour of duty, I went across to the first Gulf War. This is in 1990, and then it started in 91. But we were just living in the desert for 6 months beforehand, and I was a corporal in charge of. Well, there's 10 of us, including myself, but you was in an armoured fighting vehicle, a warrior armoured fighting vehicle. So you just lived in this, it's like a little mini caravan. You were just scrouching in there, but it's just full of weapons and nuclear biological kit and water, and it was stuff all strapped on the outside. We lived in that vehicle out in the desert for 5.5 months before the war started. So you're just sleeping by the side of the vehicle. So you knew all your troops really, really well. But what it did get was the build up to the war. Our drills were fantastic.
So you were hardened, ready, waiting for this war. Okay.
Yeah, while we're living roughly, we're living out in the desert, and then we were just always practicing. We had that much. We had all the war stock of ammunition, so it was all practice. So when it came to it, we was well ready and prepared. You know, so yeah. So I did that tour. So altogether, I did 3 tours, operational tours in Northern Ireland. Yep. Plus, I went to a full-on conventional war in the first Gulf War. Yeah. You're talking tanks and armoured infantry. This was in Iraq. We went to straight away. This was when Iraq went into Kuwait. This is the 1991, the very first one. And then all the coalition gathered up ready to go in, and they bombarded the area for about a month prior to it. And then we went in there, and actually was involved in the first armoured infantry attack since the Second World War. Well, our unit was a company. They did the first one, we did the second one, and it was full on. You've got tanks rolling by, you're firing. You've got all your machine guns and everything. You have to get out the safety of your secure wagon. You've got a metal container which is bulletproof, and you can hear rounds hitting that vehicle
while you're sitting inside.
Yeah, and then you've got to stop and get out that vehicle and then move forward, and then get boots on the ground to get into the enemy trenches and meet the enemy. So on the first one, we lost a guy, and I saw it from 50 meters away. He actually got hit by the RPG warhead itself. They fired an RPG warhead. It was just surreal.
So give an example of RPG warhead.
Wow, an RPG is it's a rocket.
Yeah,
it's an anti-tank rocket launcher, and it propels it fires a warhead about this size, and it's about this wide, and its main task is to hit a vehicle, an armored vehicle, pierce inside that vehicle, and then blow up inside and kill, take down armored vehicles. This group of my friends, I was watching them move out of their vehicle because we all had to debuzz out of our vehicles under fire. They were debuzzing, and this little group of Iraqis, they were actually putting up a white flag, and then a couple of guys in between them, one got up and just fired this RPG. And as I said, it was about 50 meters away. It's surreal. Man. And it's the sand first. You just saw the sand pick up. It's obviously so quick.
Yeah.
And then it hit the guy as he was moving out of the vehicle. But all I saw was just all the what looked like white fossil, all the smoke and everything. I thought the vehicle had completely been hit, and all the guys around him had been taken out. But it didn't. It just killed the one guy. The actual warhead went straight through him. So he had this piece of rocket hit him, yeah. And so that was surreal.
Was there a point there where you were like, I actually think could lose my life?
Yeah, of course.
At that, no, I know you've been through many occasions, but you've gone straight into that mix in Iraq straight away in the early 90s.
Yeah, it was an armoured infantry attack.
Yeah.
And prior to it, though, we were going on to positions, and they'd been bombarded that much. We thought we was gearing up to get out of our vehicles and get into enemy positions and have a fight. We were getting there, and there was nothing left because they'd been bombarded, the area. So there was just body parts, or you'd have people just wanting to surrender. But we actually then was moving to this one position, and it hadn't been touched. And these guys, most of them wanted to surrender, but then groups started firing on us. So we had to move the vehicles up there, get out, and attack the positions. But that was the proudest day of my life because, even to this day, it was one of the proudest days of my life because as a corporal, you was told to sit at the back of your tank, your armoured fighting vehicle. So, for instance, if we were all sitting in this area here and you've got a door here, once that door opens, all the guys go out. And you, as the boss, the corporal, you is at this end. So if the guys refuse to go out, you can push them out.
Yeah.
If they were scared.
Literally.
Yeah,
okay.
Literally push them out. But I said to my guys, I'm not sitting that side. I'll be the first out the door. Not because I'm a big man.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be the first out the door.
Lead
and
the way.
hope you've got enough respect to follow me out. And I said, if I don't, I'll come back. you won't see me back. And when we come under contact this one time, and you know these rounds incoming, you've got your gunners firing above you. You can hear the rounds hitting your vehicle, and it's like, right, lads, I get the goozies now. That vehicle, that door opened, and you're going into that. So I got out, and then we do all these drills. All the guys got out, and I remember looking left and right, and all my guys were there. I'm like, proud.
Yeah, mate.
So at the time, you aren't scared because you haven't got time to be scared. Yeah. It's a drill.
Adrenaline as well.
Yeah, it's adrenaline. And you practiced over and over again. So you forget about everything going around you. You just go into that drill. And especially if you're a commander, you've got your blokes you haven't got time thinking yourself. You've got too much going on. You've got your men to think about. So you just automatically go into that drill. So that was my first full-on combat experience.
That is full on.
That was full on. It was only short and sharp. It was over in 4 days.
Yeah.
But it was just, that was a bonkers.
Yeah.
And then it went into nighttime, and it's really confusing. Even though we practiced over and over again, you got these 50 tons of armor all coming around you, firing tanks and noise and confusion going on, and little pockets of enemy there and everywhere, and radio equipment going down. It was. But I thought to myself after that, right, I've had 3 tours of duty in Northern Ireland. I've also been on a full-on war. I'm also a sergeant. I've had responsibility. So now I'm going on selection, SAS selection. I'm going to have all this experience.
Yeah.
But what you realise is that 12 years of what you've done before, after about 18 months of being in the Special Forces, you've done a lot more than that, and you're on the go.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is what it's really about. Because the difference is, once you get to the Special Forces, it's totally informal. It's not like the normal military. Military is formal. Yeah. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir, marching around, room inspections. And it's done for a reason, because you've got young soldiers there. everybody has to get disciplined.
Yeah.
Getting in the special forces, you've already earned your way in there. You've got the self-discipline to get in there. And once you've made it in there, they don't have to check on you.
Yeah.
You know, you were given that much responsibility. It's unreal. And you're working at a strategic level now. When you're a normal soldier, you're tactical level.
Yeah.
You're on the ground. You would, as an SAS soldier, use a strategic level. You're only sent into jobs where you know it's going to be a full-on job, and it's cost that much money to train you, and there's not many of us. It's a vital role, and it's a role what could be world-changing if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
Literally world-changing.
Literally, it's true. World-changing, yeah.
Because even though I went in as a sergeant, as soon as you get there, you're demoted to a trooper.
Yeah,
so you're equivalent as a private.
So you've got to build yourself up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
However, it's a bit hard to explain. You get there, and it's, right, it's informal. This is your sergeant major. I say, oh, aye, sir, because that's how you do.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, don't call me sir. It's this, it's Bob or Pete, or, I won't say the names, but these are first name. And you're like, whoa. And straight away, when there's planning for missions, you're involved as a new boy. You could be the oldest boy. That everybody, they'll say, right, what's your opinion?
Yeah, brilliant.
You have a go. And then suddenly you get moved away, even though you're a trooper. I remember I got my Lance Corporal after about 2 years, because it goes through time. And there's me and there's one other trooper. Suddenly, I'm in charge of the forward air controlling of a large area, Bosnia. I've not only got British jets, I've got NATO jets, foreign countries' jets.
Right.
And I'm in charge of this area with all these jets. And you were responsible for dropping bombs. Imagine if you drop the wrong bomb. That's it. It's so much, you've got so much authority.
Yeah.
Even as a trooper.
And responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting you just mentioned there, Mal, is we've had people on who've had Craig Harrison on and Big Phil Campion and Foxy.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah, you know all these boys. We'll go into a conversation about those boys later, but no one ever really speaks about Bosnia.
Yeah.
Craig Harrison spoke about Bosnia because most people will talk about Afghan, Iraq. When was the first time you went to Bosnia?
First time was 1985.
Okay.
And as soon as I passed selection, one of the first things I was doing is carrying a coffin. I went straight to there's a part of the coffin party because one of the guys on the selection before me, only 6 months before me, had died in Bosnia, and he'd come back. And you go to your squadron, and it's like, wow. And that seemed to happen on a regular basis. Yeah. You always, unfortunately, we lost a lot of people.
How brutal was Bosnia?
Bosnia was very brutal. It was horrendously. Don't forget, this is 90s now, so a lot of people went in back then, and the ones who did, as I said, Bosnia was just. Put it this way: certain parts of Bosnia, and you can check all the facts on this. Certain areas around, to do with their war crimes, especially the Serbian war crimes, they were on par per capita with what the Nazis did during their A-Day in the Second World War.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's how they were ethnic cleansing, how many people they were killing, and obviously per capita. And it wasn't just the Bosnian Serbs. You had the Croatians and the Muslim side. They were all as bad as each other. And it just shows you where neighbours been living together, and then it's the same happened in Iraq against the Sunni and Shias and so on, where you got communities living together in harmony, and then it only takes something happen and all the propaganda get out there, and he's one of my family, so I'll do something a bit more worse to them, and then they build it up, and before you know it, they've gone from beating each other up to shooting each other to torturing each other to doing atrocities which are beyond. I mean, some of the wall graves and that what we found in the areas, and you knew the people who were responsible for it, these pithwicks. But the only good thing is we went back get these after.
Okay.
So that was good.
So was that your main mission, to go and get the pithwicks?
Yeah.
Get the top people. Give me an example of what you had to do there.
Well, over in Bosnia, as I said, I was forward air control, and there was all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
But also we were doing. You was under the. You was known as JCOs, Joint Communications Officers. So you was under the NATO berry. The UN berry.
Yeah.
So obviously the Serbians and people and the Croats and whoever, they did not know they just thought you was part of a peacekeeping force. Okay. But really, you were gathering information on different groups.
So you're kind of going undercover.
Yeah, and then there was undercover work going on over there for a long time. So there was a lot of undercover work going on. And then these jobs would just go down. You'd be in area fed, and you'd be briefed up for a job. And you'd know, and you'd be practicing it. And literally, I got called on a job. I was in Tesco, well, not a supermarket in area fed. We knew a job was going down. It just went. And then suddenly, you're getting called in. Bang. You're out, you've done the job, you've been involved in lethal action and full on, I can't go into too much about the operation, but you've been in a full on ding dong. And then you're back home within 36 hours watching catch up match of the day. That was surreal, serious. And then jobs were happening. And this is what people don't realize, these jobs happening all around the world in different parts. There's things going on, we can't even talk. That's why I can't even talk about it on here. There's obviously secretive stuff going on for the good and benefit of UK.
So you'd be on call. You'd have a group of lads. How many lads would go out and do a job?
It depends what the job was, and depends on
Bosnia job. So go and do a proper job out there.
And it'd be depending what this is. If you're just going to take on one target, get one walking him up, and he's depending on what he's got around him. They've done all the surveillance. How are you going to get him? It depends on how many people. Yeah. It might be a small group. And then if you're going to simultaneously get so many people in this certain village or town, then there'd be more people coming in. But you've done all this. There's a lot of surveillance going on. So there's been people in undercover in civilian clothes doing
passing back information to go and do a job.
And it's lots of intelligence. And so you'd be practicing for these jobs. And then suddenly it would happen. Flash the bang. You're done and dusted in sometimes 36 hours, sometimes 48 hours.
What's that feeling like when you're looking around? You got your mates, one to your right, one to your left. You all back each other. You know you're in to go and do a job. What's that feeling like before you're about to go and do a job? You're landing into a country to go and...
It's amazing. Yeah. You want to do that job. It's everybody fights to get on a mission, and sometimes it's people who've been injured. They're carrying an injury. They're taking a lot of painkillers because they want to be on that task.
Yeah.
Really, they should have put their hands up and say, I could be an hindrance to you if something happens and we have to go on the run because once them painkillers run out, I can't do it. But they want to be on that task. Everybody wants to be on the task and on the mission. And it's hit to miss sometimes, because sometimes you've got squadrons who are on the standby waiting for a mission to go off, and you have certain amount of months doing it, and then you move on to a different role. You might go into the counter-terrorist role or something like this. And so that group might have been on the job for so many months waiting for this job to go down, and then he doesn't. And then another group, say D squadron, take over. We just took over 2 weeks later.
Get the job
done. It's all in place now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or these boys, this certain group of Pivwicks have moved back into their area. Right, they're there now. Go.
Okay. So give me an example. So if you want to go and get a Pivwick, are you told to take that person out, or are you told to we want him and bring him back to get more information out of him?
Now this is like with all. Let's say this as it is. With all these terrorists and insurgents, we're out there to first of all, ideally apprehend.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We'll take them out if we have to. But the main task, it's not an assassinate. It's there to apprehend and bring them to The Hague to face justice.
Right, okay.
Plus, you get more information from them.
Yeah.
This way, you'd like to just get
rid of them, yeah.
But no, you were there to capture them. Last resort to kill him. And unfortunately, sometimes that happens because it's the way it works. But the main task of the SAS is to save lives. It's to prevent people getting killed. So you were there. Nobody goes in the SAS or to be a killer or to take lives. If you want to go in the military and just for take lives, you shouldn't be in the military. You wouldn't get in the special forces. Yeah. You'd be in a psychiatric hospital because you're a lunatic or you're a mad person. Why do you want to just go kill people?
Yeah.
That's not the job. The job is you were there to save lives. And however, and this is what people don't realize, sometimes you've got to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
The only way to sometimes is you've got to go in there and you've got to do the job, And this is why people all terrorists, everybody, in my opinion, should be given the death sentence.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what side of terrorism they're on. They're terrorists depending on what they've done. That's it. they should be given the death sentence. No hands, no way. Because
you did 12 years
in the SAS.
And SAS, and then when you left, you're saying, why did you leave number one? But number two, what did you go and do for a pound note afterwards?
Right, this is the gathering that. I'm like, right, you've been with me since I was in the SAS. You know what it's like now. I'm away all the time. It's dangerous, blah, blah, blah. I said, now I've done all my time. I'm going to go on a job where I'm going to get a lot more money for it. So it was for the money. I finished all my time. I could have stayed there. And I says, but now, because people think that SAS, you aren't in there for money. It's not at all well paid. It's better paid than normal.
Yeah. Roughly how much were you on at your peak when you left?
Oh, God, I can't remember. It's not much at all.
50? 60?
Yeah, you're on about something like that. It's not much at all. You aren't in there for the money.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, yeah.
Because a normal bod looking in like myself going, what, you're telling me doing all those missions? I know you're not doing it for the money, but in my mind, I think it's got to be a 200 grand job, isn't it?
My brother was brother was a plumber, and he was raking in a lot more money than me. Yeah. No, you aren't in there for the
you're
money.
Doing it,
Yeah. So it was a case of, right, do I stay on now, or let's get out? I can go on these jobs, and at the time it was big money back then, a day. And he was looking after American news crews, but he was in the art of it. He was living outside the green zone, outside the secure zone. You were just living in an hotel, and our job was to secure this floor of the hotel, and then take the correspondents out on jobs. And they won't go to as soon as that bomb's gone off, they won't go there, and they won't report on both sides. They and so we was just going there low profile, not in these big armored vehicles or anything. We just won't get in there, get the job done, and get out. Now, at the time, as I said, there was 4 of us, but there'd always be a guy sleeping because he'd been on night duty. There'd be a guy on a desk. We'd have our own little control center, and there'd only be 2 of us on the ground. We'd go in 2 cars. One car, you'd have the local driver with you, an Iraqi driver, and then you'd have yourself in the vehicle, and then your mate in the second vehicle, and then you would have a cameraman and a sound man in one vehicle, and a correspondent. So you're just going in there like normal, blending in with the Iraqis. And then suddenly, these Westerners just jump out of the vehicle. And we were in civilian clothes, but we'd have pistols down the pants, and we'd have a long weapon, a rifle, inside a tripod bag. So we looked like part
of the crew or something. Yeah, okay.
Setting up. But really, we were the eyes and ears. And then we'd have to say, right, because at the time, they wanted an American correspondent. They wanted them in a orange boiler suit and take their heads off. Imagine how big that would have been for them. That was one of their main priorities. We want a correspondent. So they really wanted one.
My God.
So our job was like, get them there, get the story done. And suddenly in the middle of the street, they're doing this report. You see everybody on the front, next minute, we're like this, right, we can get away with it for 15 minutes.
And then
we can't do more.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. But sometimes you'd have the correspondent say, no, cut, let me do that again. No, you're not. You're coming. I'm grabbing you by your ponytail and you're coming. You're coming with me. But some of them jobs were so dodgy. And we had some really bad incidents.
Was that more dangerous, you think? Because
you're on the defensive this time. You're armed, but you're on the defensive. And if anything went down, you've got no backup.
Yeah.
You haven't got the cavalry coming out. But it used to be bonkers because I'd be outside. Sometimes we'd go inside the secure green zone, and this is where the special forces were as well, and they'd be going out on missions and all the rest of it. But I knew all the lads.
Yeah.
So you go with the American journalists, they go to the press area inside the secure zone, do some business, and you take them in there, and you'd meet your mates and they're like, are you crazy living out there? They've gone on missions every night, and they know it's on the offensive, they know it's dangerous, but they know they're going to have all the backup.
Yeah.
You're like, you're just living out there. Yeah. You're living in mad in Shitsville and bandit country. It was bonkers.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for 4.5 years, and over that time, I've seen crew who everybody really well.
Yeah.
So we lost crew. Unfortunately, a couple of crew got blown up and killed. And what was really difficult, Dodge, was I was there, and I know what devastation we've done on the Iraqi side, because when we first got there, the Iraqis who were working for the press, some of these people were lawyers and really well-paid jobs, and then afterwards they had nothing. So they were coming in working for American news and doing what's known as being a fixer or gathering information for him, or sending them away to do some reporting where they couldn't get a Westerner. So they were just doing it just to live, basically. But because they were working for the Americans, they were a big target. So they used to have to live in the hotel with us. And then our hotel got blown up, so we moved into a villa and we used to secure that.
Your hotel got blown up?
Oh yeah, one time we was on the 3rd floor, suicide bomber come in on the first floor, boom, killed 25 people, blew the place up, and we was on the 3rd floor. A couple of our guards got injured badly, and one of the lads, the team had just literally moved upstairs after doing a job with the reporters, going on to our 3rd floor, and bang, it happened. Yeah. So when that happened, we thought, right, let's move away from this hotel, and we moved into a villa in the centre of Baghdad. So we trained up the Iraqis as well. That was our job.
Okay.
So we had locals who we trained up just to secure the villa, and then we'd go out and do the reporting around the villa. You'd have all blast walls and everything, and so it was full on.
Yeah.
And also some of the Iraqis I got know really well.
Good people?
Yeah, they were great people. You were some of the best friends I had, I'm still friends with them now, were actually Republican Guard officers at the time. Yeah. So I could have been fighting them as enemy combatants, and now they were doing work for the CBS News. Yeah. It's bonkers, isn't it, how life works? Anyway, you get to know these people really well, but they would be like you'd live just in the hotel or in your villa, and then after so many weeks, I'd go home, nip back home for a week, come back out there, back to Iraq. And I goes to my wife, it's just as like I'm in the military now. I'm going away on operations. Yeah. And so she was used to me going away. Mm. But this time, we're getting paid for it. And so you know these people, and you know about their babies just being born and so on. And when I go on leave, now and again, they'd go back to their house. However, for them, going back to their house was very, very dangerous. And there was a couple what got killed, got tortured, and they were dead. They were put on a scrap heap, and it was heartbreaking because you knew him, you know. And also, when we first got across there, because this is end of 2005, I was doing it, they wanted us there. They were glad that the American military were there, because they'd all had people killed from Saddam, you know, Saddam's regime. A lot of them did, and they didn't want Saddam there. So they were happy. But over the years I was there, then 4 years, I saw how eventually they were all saying, we wish Saddam was back. Because, they said it's worse than it's ever been.
Why is that?
Well, because before, with Saddam, it doesn't matter if you were Sunni, Shia, Christian, everybody lived together.
Yes.
There was none of that. There was no criminality. There was no criminals. There was no bombs going off. It was
under control,
one regime, the Ba'ath regime. It was under his control, and it was an odd control. Yeah. And so long as you had the picture of Saddam and you never ever mentioned anything wrong for him, you was okay. Don't get me wrong, his sons or his army could come in there and just take your daughter or whatever, but that was it. You know, he had full control. Mm.
So the devil you know, basically, for the locals.
And then once that got rid of, you had locals fighting each other, Christians getting killed, and then Sunnis fighting Shia, and that all went off, and it just turned into insurgency, and all little pockets of groups. It was chaos. Kids couldn't. There was no schools open. There was car bombs going off at the local markets all the time, and they're saying, you know, it was none of this with Saddam. So even people who had relatives killed by Saddam are saying, we wish we had Saddam back now. Wow. Because, and you thought to yourself, God, this is part of our doing. You know, we went in there. Well, you personally, you go in with that mission. You were looking for weapons of mass destruction. That was what we was told, even the special forces. And we thought, you know, all the politics of it, you'll never know what the bigger picture was. But they had no end game. So at the end, it was like, what's happening to just look what you've done, and you're just like, God. So I saw over them 4 years what we've actually done and what life's been like for these people.
But did you look back though and go, it was a wrong move for the British Army to be in?
Yeah, in hindsight. 100% it was the wrong move.
Okay.
So was Afghanistan.
Yeah.
We've made some right cock-ups, haven't we? But it's not the fighting person. It's not the person on the ground. You think you're there doing the right thing. It's something going on higher up. I don't know how true it was for weapons of mass destruction and so on. Did they believe that? Did they have all evidence? If they did, maybe so, because you've got to stop it at source, haven't you? That's the only way, you know, before it happens. However, there's all these different, I don't know. All I do know is we shook a massive wasp nest and then just left it as a mess now. And it's brought on a lot more terrorism.
Yeah. And how many years were you guys there before you actually left? And when you look back after leaving, did you look back in hindsight and go, we lost a lot of bodies there and we killed a lot of people for actually what?
Yeah. You can't think like that, really.
No, but I know about your point of view. Yeah,
it has.
Okay.
Yeah. To being honest, it has.
Yeah.
But I don't. You know, like the old Oasis, don't look back and anger.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yeah.
That's it. People who all when we all went across the hill, my mates who were lost, they were there doing their job, and their job is to protect our country and our nation. You know.
Have you got a core of hardcore mates of yours all in the SAS?
Yeah.
How many lads do you reckon you've got? You could
Well,
how many lads could you count and say I could put my life on him? If I was in serious trouble, he'd come and look after me.
Well, it's like this, Dodge.
Yeah.
In life,
Yeah,
we've got loads of associates.
that's right. Acquaintances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got loads of mates as well. But friends, I'd say to anybody, for true friends, you should only have about an handful.
A handful.
And
you're lucky to have that for true friends.
True friends where you haven't seen anybody for 15 years, but you know, or whatever, or you're in each other's pockets, but you know something happened to their family. They'll be there for you. Yeah. They would take a bullet for you.
How many men do you reckon you got like that?
I've got 4 really, really close. And and it just so happens they're all ex-special forces as well. Yeah. You know, yeah.
Tell me if you're in the jungle and a fly goes on your belly, what do you do?
Oh God! Right. Do you want me to tell you a funny story now? We've talked a bit too much about. Let's have some funny stories. Right. Going back to the First Gulf War.
Yeah.
Right. We was young lads now. We were waiting for the war kick off, and even though it was really busy, at times it was just boredom. You're just sitting by the side of your tank and there's nothing to do, and he's put these flies everywhere, and you used to get given jam and bring out sometimes fresh jam and bread to you to complement your army rations. Now, I had this one, being the corporal, you was in charge of that one dirty book, the one escort, the dirty magazine. That was your magazine. And when we first got across there, it was nice and crisp and nice and fresh. You can imagine by the end of it, and it would be, whose turn is it now? And the corporal said, and then we'd have little time, everybody, can I use the boot? And then go inside the wagon. So that wagon was not very, it's not very, you can get a lot of babies out there. But also, we had this dirty boot, and we had a little competition going. When you're talking about flies on the valley, you'd be there reading the dirty book, and you'd obviously get a nice bone on in all direction. You put a bit of jam on your belly button, or if you like me, on your chest. For any of the girls out there, no. And then you get on, and you wait for the fly land, and then you'd let the spring action go. I got one! And we have a little competition who can get the most. And I was there.
Phil Campion, I gave Phil a bell before you come on, and I said, Phil, tell me. He went, mate, I'm asking about the old belly button and the fly.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, so you knew it. So that was that. But also, oh, gosh, there's some funny stories. That's it. You just got to take the positive out of everything. I remember being on selection. To me, the worst part was the interrogation and all that, because you can train your body, and it's hard to get used to the jungle, but you can't train your mind. And when you're that tired and that knackered, you've had no sleep, and you've got all this noise going on, you've got all the confusion, you literally, it's as if I'm looking at you now, and I remember getting interrogated, and the person's head was turning to Mickey Mouse. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And sometimes they had this officer, and I thought, man, he's really intelligent. He's never going to sign anything or give away any information. And he said, he just started signing things and talking. He didn't realise he was doing it, because they get into, the professional interrogators, they know what they're doing. So, and then you're like, wow.
This is on training, right?
Yes, he's training for select. And, he's a brilliant soldier, but he didn't get in because he just gave everything, and because he was that tired, that confused, and he was hallucinating. Oh, wow. You're just, you're in a different world. Wow. And that's why when you go on to interrogation, you have to sign paperwork with the military saying you can never prosecute back for psychological damage later on. Yeah. Because I know friends, because you got so used to just up against the wall, pissing against the wall on yourself, who then, whenever they got drunk, a couple of them know, they come back out, get out of bed, and they've ruined that many carpets because they're just getting that stress. But it's serious.
Is that right?
Yeah. I claim for so many carpets. But I remember this woman, I was 28, 29, so I was a younger, been on the run for 7 days and nights, you know what I mean? And obviously, you got a full groin full of and a full man sack. Let's say what it's really about. But you haven't been playing with it out there because you're too busy getting chased and running and everything. Anyway, I remember, you've got to take it serious and you really are knackered. We had this woman, and she's like where you are sitting down, and she had all the tight black kit on. And I'm like, she's trying to get my head around everything else. And she goes, strip naked. She made me strip all naked because they try to humiliate you. Yeah. You know, she goes, turn round, bend over, touch your toes. And I'm starting to laugh to myself. I wouldn't like be looking at that after 7 days and nights on the road. And then she goes, come here, bring me that. She goes, you're supposed to be a black man. Pull back your foreskin, pull it forward. I'm like, but then she starts asking me questions, and she was blonde and good looking. Yeah. But she had a fair, let's face it, bust on it. And she got this tight dot top on. So I'm looking, I'm trying to figure out, and I was in a lot of pain as well. My neck was in pain. I was trying to take my mind off things. So I'm just looking at her, and then that's it. I'm just pretending naked. And I was just like that. And I was like, oh God, what have I done? Because suddenly I started getting, she goes, what are you fucking at? Get down. Well, what can I do? Think of my grandma. Think of my grandma.
Queen mum.
I was trying to think of my grandma. I was like, and then even she's like, get that. She called me the N-word, get that N-word out of here. And they got me out, got the hose on me, beasted me. But then I'm giggling. I thought, shit, I'm going to get kicked off this course because I'm starting to laugh because even she started going, but I couldn't stop it. Yeah. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, oh fuck. Why did I undress it mentally? Stop.
Quality.
Would have been worse if I had a premature rejection. Yeah, that would have been.
What was your movements after those 4.5 years working with the press?
Oh yeah.
What were your movements after that? Because you're probably like 2010 now.
So that was it. So I went over to the press, and it was for a reason, Dodge. I'm like, right, we are now. I'm going to try and make money. Yeah, I am. But the thing was, before I was over there with the SAS, if something would have happened to you, it would have been SAS hero dies.
Yes.
Now, you'd be classed as a mercenary who says, oh, well, he shouldn't have been over there. You know, and fair enough, I was over there. But I was doing it for a reason. I said, right, to my missus, we're going to do this. And I had a 4-year cut-off. Yeah. That happened. Then I gets out, I did a bit of anti-piracy, and that only just for a few months. Then I got a job over in Dubai, and I was training special forces. So I was in my element. I was training the Arab Special Forces.
Were you?
I wasn't going on missions with them. I was training them. They were over in Yemen and all stuff like that. But I was training with other SAS guys. So I was...
That's your ideal job, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It was brilliant.
Perfect.
It was
I'd
one
do
of them.
your eyes closed, right?
Yeah, I'd do it with my eyes closed. I'd just get up, drive down to... The hardest thing was driving down from Dubai down to Al Ain, where it was an hour and a half commute. And the most dangerous thing was driving back on them motorways because they go crazy. But yeah, I was just doing a job. And even
what levels were they like? What levels were they like when you were teaching them?
I've got to be honest, and it's not slagging them off. Well, it's slagging them off. You can't train anybody up to be like a British Special Forces soldier. It's impossible. Yeah. Western values, because what they haven't got is the culture. Yeah. And I do believe that's where the British Army is so good. 95% of the SAS are council estate kids. Yeah. They come from fucking
nothing. Yeah, tough.
And you know what it's like. And and it's the Brits as well. We've got a different mentality. Yeah. Sometimes it's classes, they like a binge drink, they're a bed man. But mate, when it comes together, the nation, we're the best. Yeah, we're ready for some. Yeah. You know, and yes, we're very loyal, we're very compassionate, but we, don't mistake kindness for weakness. Mm. So you've got that. And also, we're, how can I say, mega professional on the job. We train in all different we train as if it's for real, for war. Whereas some cultures, they've got all the money, so they have the best equipment, they have the best trainers, they check all your documents, you've got to have been, a certain rank. I was a sergeant major in the SAS. You've got to have done all these courses for training their special forces, not just training their normal army, for training their special forces. Or you'd have to be from Delta or SEAL Team 6 or the Australian SAS. You'd have to be tier 1 trainers for training the equivalent to their tier 1 And then it got watered down over the years, but that's originally what it was. So they think, right, we've got the best equipment, we've got the best instructors in the world, we should have the best product.
Yeah.
But what you can't change is that culture, that mentality,
And
because
mind, isn't it? Yeah.
because even though they were from the desert, as soon as it got hot, don't forget they're very rich people. So they brought up in an air-conditioned society.
Yeah.
They aren't Bedouins anymore or anything. So we'd say, right, we're going to go out for so many days and that.
Did they lack grit, do you think?
Yeah, they lack grit, and they haven't got that fighting spirit.
Yeah.
Serious. And also, they don't like the dark. They're scared of genie. They don't like... Nobody likes pooing with next to a mate, but in reality, that's what you have to do. No, they walk 100 meters, 200 meters away go for a wee.
Yeah.
From you can't do that for. They were getting lost out in it and stuff like that. And also, you can't just stop for prayer all the time. And it's like, inshallah, So you've got sort of that there's some good lads there. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of it's that mentality. So they aren't as they're good for a certain standard, but you can never bring them up to our standard. Yeah. Plus, you wouldn't, because just in case you one, you can't, but also only certain tactics you will teach them. There's certain things what you wouldn't teach them.
What's the difference between the British SAS and the Australian SAS?
Well, we're the senior one. Everybody's tried to model themselves off us, but I would always say, obviously, we're...
Yeah, 100%. What about the SEALs? What about the American version of the SAS?
Don't get me wrong, the Australian SAS are still good. They are their tier one. And they're Australians, I mean, the Americans, you've got the SEALs and you've got Delta. They are their tier one. So it's like the SBS. SBS is, say, equivalent to the SEALs.
Yep. SS is Delta.
Is equivalent like to Delta. Yeah. That's the easiest way of putting it, and they are very few and far between.
Who would you put as better? Who would you put as a stronger unit, the SAS or the Delta or the SEALs? And
the SAS by far.
By far,
no, I wouldn't say by far, but 100%. The SAS. They might have better equipment and so on, but don't get me wrong, they're very, very good. They're brilliant operators. But
they look up to the British SAS, don't they?
They modelled their selection off us. Everybody's modelled. We're the original SAS. They've tried model it, but it's very difficult. But you can't model that kid from that council estate. No, you can't model that culture. So that's what makes us different. Don't get me wrong, they're very good. They're brilliant at the job. But also, they have lots of different special forces units as well. They aren't tier one, but they're special forces units. So you'll have like SFG, Special Forces Group. So you'll have American group, Special Forces, who just are 100% jungle warfare.
Okay.
One is Arctic warfare. One is desert warfare. Take them out of the jungle, put them in the Arctic, it's good. Whereas us, we're a jack of all trades, master of none. We have to do desert. We have to do jungle. We have to do Arctic. We have to do bush. And when I've been in the jungle doing training one time for 6 weeks, and then come back a week later, I'm in the Arctic. Right. So you've been doing contact drills in the jungle or ambushes or navigation. Next minute you're doing it on skis and it's minus whatever. It's fucking serious. and the thing is, everybody's got their perfect likes their room. Yeah. I used to like the heat. I could handle the heat a lot more, even when it's scorching. Nobody
cold.
likes it. So the desert, I was all right. In the jungle, I could handle that because I don't know, but it might be genetics. I think it might be true. Like the darker you are or blacker you are, the more you can handle the heat. I don't know, but whether you've got ginger hair and freckles and pure white skin, and then you can handle the Arctic. No, it does. It works like that. Yeah. My mate, he had ginger hair, freckles, and pure white skin. That's why I'm saying it. And he'd fry, and he used to hate the hot, the weather. He'd work in there. Obviously, we all do a job. But get him out in the Arctic, they loved it. Everybody loved it. I hated that environment. They used to know me as Mal Ten Socks because that was my nickname, Indian nickname, with Dancing with Wolves. It was, where's 10 socks? Cause,
getting wrapped up.
Yeah, because they give you 10 pairs of socks. I'd try to get them on. I'd have a pair of boots about 5 times too big so I could have them on. I would go out like the Michelin man. I couldn't move. I fucking hate the cold. I hate it with a vengeance, but I do it because you have to. Yeah. But to me, it's unforgiving. You lose a mitten, you can go down with frostbite.
That's right, yeah.
And to me, when it's that hot, you can always at least get shade and you don't have to carry as much equipment. The Arctic is something different. But some people, I used to think to myself, how the F is he sleeping? And in his sleeping bags and it's minus. I'm like, but you're in a snow oval. And all these people who say, oh, snow ovals, you only need to put a candle and you're nice and warm. They fucking lie. It's freezing cold. I'm like, gibbering. I've got no sleep. I'm like, you know, you're dying for the piss, but there's no way I'm going to get out of the sleeping bag. And I'd be watching my mate and he's sleeping and another mate that side. I'm like, how the fuck? How do you sleep? But I don't. I've never smoked in my life, Dodge, and that was the first time I tried
just
smoking.
To see if you can warm up.
The lads would be like, oh. I'm like, give us that fucking. So that was like.
When did you get the call, and how did you get the call to go on the TV program SAS Who Dares Wins?
That was just my mate. He just give us a call. Like it just so happened things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So what happened was I finished.
What year are we talking here?
No, it was
21?
21, wasn't it? Yeah. And that's when I finished training. The final contract finished, and we were like, right, that as soon as that finished, and it was in lockdown, I get a phone call off my mate. Right, Mal, do you want to come on the show? And my mate's Billy as well, and I'm good mates with Billy. We were in the same squad.
Billy Bingham.
Yeah, Billy Bingham. He's a good mate of mine. He came to D squad. He's originally B, but he came to D for 2 years, and I worked closely with him. You know, so I've been up with him on operations together. We've been on the piss together. We're good mates, and he's one of them I hadn't seen for years. But then you had a touch, and it's like, and he goes, "Come on." I'm like, I've never even seen it. Tell you the truth, I've never seen it. I've heard about it and heard it's on, but I was living out in Dubai, you know, and I'd never watched any of that. I was only ever watching. It'd be like Sky News or the football.
Stoke City on a Tuesday night in the rain.
It'll be watching. It'll be watching any sports, Sky News. But basically Netflix. I wasn't watching any British sort of TV over there because we didn't have them. Then when we got the dodgy boxes, you got a bit more. And he was saying like, and he goes, "What's it all about?" And he just said, "I thought, yeah, that sounds all right." And then they sent me all the episodes, and I'm like, started watching them. I was like, "Oh, this is fun." Yeah. So I went on that, and it was fun. It was really good. I had a good time. I only did the 2 series because then afterwards they wanted to go to America, so they needed to bring in a couple of Americans because now they're doing that show over in America, so it's massive. But it's really good, and it's a beneficial program because it doesn't just, you know. It's not what the SAS does. For a start, we don't shout at each other. It's none of that. But it wouldn't be a very good program if it was like just somebody just watching.
That's right.
You know, what's this about? You know, and that's what makes the SAS selection so hard because you never know how good you're doing or how bad. You sometimes think, I wish the fucker would at least swear at me or say something. But so on the program they do all that, and they do a bit of interrogation. You know, it's a few hours, and it's just a tiny snippet, about 5% of what it's really like, you know, for obvious. But what they do is bring out people and go through people's journeys, and everybody who goes on that program, they all get something out of it. You know, everybody, all the contestants are like, wow, it's not until you've took yourself out your comfort zone and you've left with nothing that you realize. And let's face it, who would ever do that? Unless you're going on some show. Why would you ever get stripped naked and get beasted and you're down to basics? But if you did that, you'd be surprised how far you can push yourself, the human body, how far you can and how resilient you can be. And you'll get something out of it, and everybody does. So it's a really good, I think it's an inspiring program.
Do you know what I sense from you? I sense that you really live in the present.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love life.
It's nice, isn't it?
I tell you what it is as well. I just talk to people. I always say, if I can see the name, I'm like, remember this? Because you're like one of these like Americans. Good morning, have a good day, sir. I just do it all the time. Say, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
Yeah, that's the first thing I always say.
How lovely is it though?
I always look for the name and I say, I was just in Starbucks. I'm like, hi, Kirsty.
I'm the same.
How you doing, mate? How's it going, Kirsty?
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
But they'll remember that.
Yeah.
They remember that the whole day. They'll go back and go, I met this lovely fellow coming here. She mentioned my name. Because people want to feel important. Yeah. Make people feel good about themselves.
And you'd be surprised. I always say as I'm walking past somebody, good morning, or smile at them. And
they get shocked, don't they?
They get shocked. And good morning back. And suddenly they get a smile back.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes past you and just says morning and smiles,
it's lovely.
You think, oh.
Do you know what another thing I like? Even if someone doesn't, if someone doesn't say good morning, but you know when you walk past someone, they give you a little smile. That could make $1 million. Yeah. Or you just give someone a little smile, as if a little nod. It's a lovely feeling.
Yeah.
And no one really speaks about it. But the feeling you get from someone does it to you is amazing. And the feeling you get for being open and nice and making people feel important, good about themselves, lovely feeling.
Absolutely.
It don't cost nothing.
Because it doesn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, complimenting people and just being happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because you've made them happy then. And I don't go around like a clown, but I'm always full of optimism. And sometimes you get people who don't say anything back.
Yeah, that's fine.
And like, to me, they might have had a bad morning.
You don't know like we said a minute
ago. They might be foreign in a different language. They might not understood, or they might be scared, especially
or they might
some
have
places.
Mind health problems. You don't know what's going on in their mind. It might be financial. It might be the missus. It might be. We don't know.
But that doesn't mean the next person to see. I don't say good morning to
right.
And everything he can make sense. And it does. Certain areas of the world or even the country, people are more happy, I think. Even though it can be less prosperous, say up in the north, I say some Stoke.
Yeah.
But you go in the shop and they're talking to you, all right, and yet before you know, it's going. Whereas some place in London, maybe because it's so busy, it's.
No, London's definitely got a different feel to it. Yeah.
Or you know, people can just walk over people in the street, and if you say hello to somebody, sometimes they look at you as just want to fight.
They're going to rob you or so.
And that's not obviously not all of London. I suppose
I hear
the busy centres.
Yeah.
But there's no. It's good just being able to chat and have a positive outlook to life.
How old are you today?
I'm nearly 60. I'm 60 in December.
Mate.
But I love it. Even this morning, I get
so. You know what though? Like you're a 30-year-old mind in a 59-year-old's mind, but you've got a body of a 30-year-old still. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking great Nick. Like you know what? I spoke to Phil Kemp. I spoke to Mothers before you come on. They were saying that when they were training with you, you'd be in the sea. You'd have one man on each soldier on each arm, running through the sea up to your knees. And they're all looking at you going, how's he doing that? Like they were telling me stories about you were the fittest man they've ever seen in the SAS. What a compliment.
Yeah. But I still, people think, I still like a beer and all the rest of it. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But even this morning, I was up, I did 15 miles this morning.
Yeah.
And I was knackered from last night because I had a few beers and drove down.
Yeah.
But I don't say, I'm like, right, I've got to do something. I enjoy it. And I do believe, get out there, do something physical.
And you'll feel good.
And you're made, ideally at the beginning of the day. If you can't, at least do something. Doesn't matter what.
I reckon training can take
for your mental health.
Take a lot of the problems out for that 24 hours.
100%.
Yeah.
In 24 hours, you can at least try to get fit. Get something in, and you'll feel much more better. You know,
Mel,
mental health and physical health.
Mel, I've really enjoyed this. You're a real special person. You know that. I know you probably don't take compliments and stuff, but you're a proper special person. And hearing you today to talk with the passion that you spoke about and what you've done in your life and 40 odd years in the military is phenomenal.
Well, that's 40 years either working with military special
forces and being involved in the whole thing.
And I think part of it is that process, you know, it never leaves you.
Yeah.
But it's been great. Thanks for having me on, Dodge. Thanks for listening to you. And I don't think you got a word in though, do you? I just like
mate, it's great, mate. It's not about me, it's about you, mate. And you've presented yourself really well, and I think you've got a wonderful next 30, 40. You're sort of bloke who's going to go to 100 and still be the character you are. You're a gentleman.
Thanks, pal.
Mate, really enjoyed that, Mel.
And
you're a gentleman.
Thanks a lot, pal.
Good man. Thank you.
Thanks, Dodge.
Thank you. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers, guys. Mate, that was quality. Mate, that's amazing.
Like you said, just a mate in a pub. I forgot where we were.
Same.
I didn't realise we were just chatting.
But that's why when people come on here, they go, "Fuck me, that was therapeutic." I said. I
saw you looking at that. I thought,
no, not at all. Because the thing is, because
kick me under the desk.
Because we have these on, right, Mal?
Because I bounce from different things.
That's fine. I'm the same. I'm the same. But there, and I can just gently see the clock there, and I was like, "This is good."
I felt like I was on that whole journey with you.
Mate, wicked. Mate, really good. And you know what I liked about it? From the start was fucking good.
Yeah, I got so many notes there.
Did it go on too long about that?
No, it's bang on. Because there's really good context to your story. The Windrush, Jamaica, racism, bullying, military, SAS, doing all these, it's fucking brilliant. Honestly, mate, it was fucking absolutely brilliant.
I don't want to talk about race because people say, "Oh, it's all race."
I
don't want,
it's not. It's facts.
But it is. But
it's
anything
truth.
What happens to, I think, in your past as a child, that sort of makes you like look at Big Phil and everything, and you think, "Yeah, this is what's it's in childhood."
When you look back and you reflect, you go, "I had that as a child. Well, fuck, I made amends by doing that, and that. Brilliant, mate."
And that look how you got to where you've got and that entrepreneurship and having that. It's mindset. How did you do it? I don't know your background.
Yeah,
Where
grew up in pubs in London.
That's it. You haven't been given
flat. I'm gonna give
you wasn't given the golden spoon, was you? But look what you've done.
Yeah, two bed flat, living up pubs. We had 2 Alsatians, a Doberman, my old man was a big lump. Maybe they're having tear-ups in the pub, throwing people out. We had cockatoo, we had budgies, and we had a pet monkey. That's not normal, right? No. Do you know what I mean? So that's what my point is that we all get given the cards we're given, and you do the best you possibly can.
But that's made you. Yeah. That's made you that resilient and that mindset. Grit. That's made you, isn't it? That go-getter.
A go-getter, and knowing that I become an entrepreneur because I saw everyone wheeling and dealing, whether it's drugs or there's nothing I couldn't get hold of in a kid. Yeah. I would get hold of anything.
So that any negatives there's made a positive to you.
And I lived my bedroom there. There was one wall, and there was a nightclub next door. I was selling tickets to the nightclub next door as a 10-year-old to the people in Dad's pub that they could get queue jump to the nightclub. Roll on 10 more years in my 20s, I had 12 nightclubs. Roll on 10 more years, I got a festival of 30,000, but doing the same thing, selling tickets, but just at a bigger scale, you know? So whatever happens back there is carried on in your life, makes you who you are today, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, mate.
I would say it.
Huh? You had humour in there, it was motivational.
It was good.
Stories, like every emotion.
It was good. And I also know if Mal goes away, and if we ever do a part 2, because I said to Phil, I said if this goes well today, Phil, and I like Mal, how's about me, you and Mal sit around the table, have a couple of beers, and then do a podcast? He went 100%.
So good.
Some of the stories, what me and Phil.
Mate, it'd be fucking brilliant.
We'd all bounce really well together.
Yeah.
You really would.
And I think we should do that with, because we said that, didn't we? I think we should do that with 3 pints.
Yeah, I think 3 pints.
Because 2 pints is kind of 1.5 is kind of made 3 pints. I think it'll just fucking bang.
Yeah, you go 2 pints in, then you start.
Yeah. Do you know what let's do that.
If it's 3 pints, nobody's having something like this. Cause this is like the 3% beer.
No. We have a proper pint. Yeah, absolutely, fucking right.
Honestly, we should so do it because
that'd be brilliant.
I think that would be genius.
It'd just be brilliant.
I think that would be.
I reckon it'd be genius.
I'd find it hard keeping my mouth closed.
Yeah.
Not laughing, listening.
Mate, I think it'd be fucking brilliant because now I know your character and I've learned about your character, and I know Phil because Phil's Phil, and been like
you just have to look at Phil.
Mate, Phil, yeah, look at you. But I've become good friends with Phil. It's quite weird. You know what's weird being a podcaster? The people who you podcast, they've just told you their fucking life. They don't go and tell their life to anyone, and you end up becoming like friends with them. It's really quite a weird, a weird business. It's not a business. A weird kind of. Well, it's an honesty card, and it's like.
I was just going to say, all the podcasts, I haven't done many, but that's been the best. It's as if like you said, I've just I've let out something.
Yeah, it's therapeutic for people. Like we've had people on here who've been super naughty, like Criminal Underworld, super naughty. They all leave here going, "Thank you, Dodge. Fucking hell, it's like a therapy session." Because it kind of is, you know, in a boozer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A boozer environment mixed with therapy, mixed with having a laugh and cards on the table.
Yeah.